Morning, families. This video is for the parents and the guardians and every wonderful person who is in charge of taking care of your little ones. Today, we're going to talk about what are the skills that are being learned in the different areas in the classroom and how students learn through play. So first we're going to go over our daily social skills that students learn while they're in the classroom is listening, waiting for a turn, using our words, being kind to others, working together, cleaning up, helping friends, sharing with others. The sharing is going to change to more to look like taking turns now due to COVID, and then also following the rules of the classroom and following a routine. These are a lot of the social skills that our students need to be ready to go to kindergarten. And so throughout the day, besides working on social emotional development, and our creative curriculum, we're also learning a lot of social skills within our day and within our play. The first section I'm going to go over is toys and games. And when students are in the toys and game centers, they're learning to recognize skills, to reasoning skills, to recognize a problem and solve problems, understanding and analyzing a problem as well. They're drawing on their previous knowledge or experience to seek solutions to a problem. They're also seeking multiple solutions to a task. They can be classifying and comparing and contrasting objects with events and experiences and using past knowledge to build on new knowledge. Also, they're planning, they're initiating and completing activities with peers. They're following directions and working on patience while I wait for my turn. Also, maintaining interest in an activity until completed. These are all goals that are goals and skills that are listed on the early learning framework, and also some are listed on the DRDP for student goals and milestones to be reached. So these are what our students are learning when they're in the toys and game centers within the classroom. Some people may just say, oh, well, they're playing, but yes, they're playing, but within their play, these are all the skills that they're able to accomplish and gain mastery in as they play in these areas. The next area is the discovery area. So it says, when I'm in the discovery area, I am exploring and learning about the world around me, investigating and observe natural substances and processes. They're exploring and learning about science and cause and effect. They're observing and discussing common properties or differences and comparisons between groups and objects or activities as well. They can be collecting and describing and recording information through discussion and drawings and through their science journals, their science art journals. This is something that they can have at home as well, because all you can do is go in your backyard and you have your science lab outside and just grab a notebook and a pencil and you have a science journal. Another skill gained in the discovery science area is describing and discussing predictions. What do you think is going to happen? Why do you think that's going to happen? Explanations and generalizations based on previous experience. So they're making connections with those neurons in their brain. They're also using their senses and tools to gather information and seek new information as well and gain a greater understanding about the world around them. The next is the dramatic play area. So it says, when I'm in the dramatic play center, I am using receptive language. Receptive is the understanding of language and how it's processed through the brain. and expressive language, which is the use of verbal language or body language to communicate. I am able to understand and able to expressively use the language I have acquired. That's very, very deep. Um, and so through play, speech and language is developed when our students and children are in the dramatic play center. They are learning so much about communication and the real world around them, even though um, for us adults, it might just look like they're playing. But the dramatic play center is probably one of the most effective areas for our students to gain skill in receptive and expressive language. They're also cooperating with others within a group setting, joining in cooperative play, inviting peers to play, models for or teaches peers, helps and shares with peers. They're also developing friendships and healthy social relationships amongst their peers through communication and problem solving. They're also demonstrating independence and self efficiency by identifying characteristics through the feelings of themselves and through other people. They're using their imagination and gaining skills and being curious and taking initiative through their pretend play and their role playing. They're using symbolic representation, which is one of the big DRDP goals. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to get this on the screen as best as I can without getting a glare. They're also using imitation and observations of the real life, and they imitate what has been modeled to them through their play. It also works as like a very therapeutic way of expressing themselves. Um, you will see various forms of play through dramatic play. Sometimes we can even see students acting out some type of forms of aggression at times, and that can be very therapeutic for them. And so, yeah, dramatic play, using their imagination, using what they've learned through imitation. Um, Teachers are able to gather observations and uh, grasp a great understanding as to where our students are with their development and what is it that we need to do to support them to get them to that next level. They're also able to problem solve and recognize and regulate their emotions and attention and impulses and behavior. They're being prepared for kindergarten by remaining engaged and interested and focused in activities that involve cognitive, language, and social emotional skills. They're able to demonstrate flexibility, imagination, and inventiveness in approaching novel tasks and activities. So these are all the skills that are gained with just playing in the dramatic play area. And this can be easily set up at home to where you can have some small kitchen items and they can pretend to cook. You can have a telephone. The telephone is usually a favorite, and then they can learn number concepts. You can also have a baby doll and have them take care of a baby. There's a lot of different recommendations that you can do to set up a small dramatic play area within your home. Uh, we can also make another video on that, explaining how to set these up in the household while you're doing distance learning. But that will be in another video. Please message me if you're interested in that, and I can go ahead and get that started. All right, so here we go. We're going to go on to the next area, which is the block area. This states, when I'm in the block center, I am using symbolic representation, which is using objects to represent something else. I'm using my intuition and curiosity to build and gain skill in spatial sense, which is a math concept. I'm using reasoning and problem solving skills with building and working amongst peers. I'm using math skills when I'm experimenting with fitting blocks and pieces of different shapes together. I'm becoming familiar with different geometric shapes and their names, and they can also match the shapes as well. I am solving problems and learning to work with my peers. That is another big skill that is needed for kindergarten because they need to learn how to be around their peers without the help of an adult. In preschool, we have, well, right now, due to COVID, we have 3 teachers in one classroom to 12 students. But when they go to kindergarten, and if they're in the classroom with the teacher, there will be one teacher and there will be about 30 to 35 students in one classroom. So that's why that is such a big piece, solving problems and learning to work with my peers. Wow, that sounds very responsible. But this is a skill that they're learning as they're playing within the block area amongst their peers. They're using, again, symbolic representation and engaging in pretend play. There's that pretend play again. Planning, initiating, and completing learning activities with peers or alongside their peers. They're joining in cooperative play with others and inviting others to join in and play with them. They're learning to help, to share, to take turns. We're going to interchange that word share and take turns and cooperate within a group setting, maintaining that obvious social distance that we now have to do thanks to lovely COVID. We're learning about gravity and cause and effect and demonstrating flexibility, imagination, inventiveness in building. Look at all these skills that they're learning, which there's probably a lot more skills that they are learning, but these come directly from what our goals are for our DRDP. This is where we want our students to be. This is what we want for them as they end the year with us, to gain skills in all these areas to get them prepared for kindergarten. Another area that can be set up in the home is the library center, a little book center. It says, when I'm in the library, I'm gaining an interest in books. I am gaining an interest in shared reading experiences and looking at books independently. They're recognizing how books are read, such as front to back and one page at a time. They're also learning how to recognize parts of the book, such as the title and the author and the illustrator. These are things that we can do with them as adults, is explain the parts of the book to them. So that way, when they go to kindergarten, they have a vast variety of vocabulary words in their bank that their brain can access. So when the teacher talks about, well, what is an author or what is the title of this book? What do you think the title is about? They're not going to be clueless in that sense. They're going to be like, I know the title. I think it's about this. I know that book. I've read that book. So that's why the most exposure we give them to the books, the better. Also, teaching them how to care for the books is big. Um, they're absorbing knowledge of print, comprehension, using their imagination, initiating curiosity and literacy activities. They're gaining understanding of stories, book sequencing texts, desire to learn, and being independent, proactive of their own learning. They're exploring literacy as a source of pure enjoyment and thinking and wondering and seeking new information and asking questions from their observations of the world around them. They're gaining interest in various types of literature, such as fiction, nonfiction, poetry, and other forms like magazines, science books, things like that. So, what we usually do in the classroom is in every area of the classroom, we have a book that the students can look at. So, in the block area, we'll have a book about construction workers, and in the dramatic play area, they could have a cookbook in the house or in the kitchen. They could also have like Lego magazines that you can order. You go online to the Lego website. Lego, if you search up Lego magazine, then you can get a Lego magazine mailed to your house for free. And just exposing them to different forms of books is amazing because it will grasp their interests and they will gain skills in many areas academically. They're also able, another skill is able to retell stories and information from books through conversation. This is another activity that can be done at home, a center that can be set up for your child. A sensory center or a sensory bin. When I used to be a home visitor, I would create sensory bins, different forms of sensory bins. So I'm going to go over this and then I'm going to give you some examples. But the kids loved it and it worked for speech and language. It was just amazing. So here we go. Sensory center. When I'm in the sensory center, I am. And first comes the definition of sensory play. It includes an activity that stimulates your young child's senses, such as touch, smell, taste, sight, or hearing. And it can also hit multiple of the senses at one time. Sensory activities and sensory tables facilitate exploration and naturally encourage children to use scientific processes while they play, create, and investigate and explore. Spending time stimulating their senses help children develop cognitively, linguistically, socially, emotionally, physically, and creatively. So, sensory play is probably another one of the most important plays that we have, especially if you have a child that has a high sensory need. Just because they have a high sensory need does not mean that they may have some form of disability. I mean, we all have senses, we're all human, and we all have a different way that our senses get activated, deactivated, and also get stimulated to where it provides positive hormones within our brain that get released, such as dopamine. And so it's fun for the kids. And you can input different things. Like, for example, I would create sensory bins from the dollar store, like get sand and get some foam ABC letters and put them in there. And then the kids have to take them out with with their pincer grip, and then poke them out like little tweezers with their fingers if you don't have tweezers. You just created your own little tweezers, which are the best ones because it also provides sensory feedback. Um, there's tons and tons. So I'm going to make another video about how to create sensory bins within your own home. And you can also add academic concepts to those sensory bins, such as numbers, ABCs, shapes, colors, things like that, with what you have at your home or stuff that you could simply buy at the dollar store. The next is art area. This is another area that you can create within your home. An art area. So participate in art activities, provides growth opportunities in direct accordance with child's abilities and interests, builds large and small muscles, and provides linear experience for later writing skills. Parents, this is one of the most important. The more art your child does, the more strength and dexterity their hand will have. It increases the growth, which leads to greater cognition. It develops the hand, the muscles, the bones, so that way they are ready when it comes time for kindergarten to hold their pencil and write their name. I know some parents may be worried my child's not writing their name yet, but it's okay because they're in preschool. And in preschool, this is what we're learning. We're learning how to do art, how to hold the paintbrush, how to make lines and movements. And first, the movements start off big as gross motor, and then they go and they get developed as fine motors, which then comes the writing. The writing comes last. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong. What it means is that their hand is still developing. Their muscles are still developing. The dexterity of their hand is still developing. And I will make another video to describe specifically just the writing and the hand development and what we can do to increase their abilities in that area. Besides doing art projects, you know, using a glue stick, trying to use scissors, let them make a mess. I know some parents, as parents, sometimes we're like, don't make a mess. I don't want to clean that up. But, you know, let them make a mess. Have an area that's safe for them to make a mess and learn and be preschoolers. In the meantime, while we wait for us to get back in the classroom, It also enhances art area, enhances color and shape awareness, development of problem solving skills. It increases the ability to organize and express ideas. It provides children a chance to expand their creativity. It also can be a socially interactive experience if you're at home with other siblings, and build self-concept and identity skills as well. You can incorporate that in there. Uses different materials and techniques to make art creations, create artistic work of art that reflect thoughts, feelings, experiences, and previous knowledge, and discusses one's own artistic creations and those of others. These are all skills that within the art area at the preschool, they're able to gain, but we can also create an area in the home that can support these skills as well. So to create an art area within the home, you can have materials that are bought maybe at the Dollar Tree. If you have a Dollar General where you live, then Dollar General. But that's not open yet over here where we live in Hollister. But you can have chunky crayons, you can have markers. Markers are really good because they're nice and thick. Let's see, do I have markers? I don't have markers. You can get paints and a paintbrush. If you're interested in learning how to make paints at home with the materials you have at home, go ahead and send me a message and I can send you that on Learning Genie. How to make tempera paint at home. I think it's flour, water, cornstarch, and food coloring. And if your child is just finger painting or painting with the brush trains the hand to do the tripod hold, which is this. It would be just as if they were holding a pencil. Like we can pretend that this is a paintbrush and you're going up and down, or side to side or around. So all these movements are strengthening the hand and getting them ready for writing their name, because, you know, children don't go straight into writing their name. They go into painting first, and finger painting and gluing and collaging and all the great stuff that develops the pincer grip that will later develop into the tripod grip. All right, the next area we're going into is music and movement. Music and movement. When I play in the music area, I follow directions. I learn to differentiate different types of music and music tempos. Develop large and small motor skills through dance. They're enhancing their listening skills. This is one of the greatest skills for getting ready to get to kindergarten, is they're listening to the music, they're listening to the teacher, they're listening to the instructions, they're developing concepts, vocabulary, and phonological awareness as well, especially with phonological songs. And they can recognize and say names of various musical instruments. That's something deeper, and that it depends on the teacher. If the teacher decides to teach that to the student, that is something that they can learn. Which when we take out our musical instruments in class, we do learn about different musical instruments. I can communicate and express myself through music. I can listen, pay attention, and follow directions. Experiment with musical instruments and dance, moving to different patterns of the beat and rhythm and music, and using creative movement to express concepts and feelings. Music and movement, one of our favorite things to do throughout the day. It's one of my favorite because there's so much that children can learn through music and listening and seeing and dancing and moving their body with their kinesthetic learning. Because they're little, they need as much movement and dancing as possible. And so within our songs, with Miss MJ's class, with Miss Tina and Miss Alex in Calaveras 3, what we do is, well, what I do is in our classroom is I give sign language for the gestures. Some gestures can be regular gestures, but most of them will be sign language, because it's important, to be able to communicate with other people that cannot communicate. And since our students are small and young, what it does is it gives them that kinesthetic learning, um, movement piece, but it also, helps the brain develop, and they're learning an actual sign for the word that they're singing. And for me, that is extremely important, as I grew up with friends who were deaf and hard of hearing, or some people that I knew from a later time who became deaf. It's important to be able to communicate with our community around us, and that's why we incorporate sign language within our classroom. The last area I will go into is the writing area. Within this also can be set up within the home. So it says, when I'm in the writing area, I learn early literacy skills. I learn to coordinate my small, fine motor skills, develop hand strength and dexterity. There's that hand strength again. So if they're scribbling, and to us adults, sometimes that might not look like much, but to them, that is the development that they're in. That is where their hand and mind are developed, and it will grow. The more opportunities they're given to do the gross motor writing, the more fine tuned it will become with time. But we have to allow them to do the gross motor first. That is the development of the child, the way it is naturally developed. And um, technically, we're not supposed to fight it. We're supposed to just go with it. And we're supposed to let them express themselves in whatever way they are expressing themselves with the gross motor uh, writing of their hand first, which is like scribbling and doodling and painting and stuff like that. They're able to express themselves with words as they get older, more towards the 4.5, 5 year old stage. When they start picking up words and they've already learned to write their name, then they can start learning new words, which we call heart words. This is from Nellie Edge's kindergarten website, is the heart words. So for example, the words that are most familiar and most loved to your child would be like mom, dad, me, I, maybe love, and then you. Those would be heart words. And so these are little expressions that they can memorize, and they can also learn to write. And that's why this is here, to express myself with words. But first comes the expression through lines and doodling and scribbling. And then it becomes more fine tuned to where they start drawing shapes. And then they start going into little drawings. And then after they do little drawings, then they start writing their name. And then after they write their name, then they can go ahead and start learning how to write other words as well. They also share their thoughts, feelings, ideas, and are creative. They learn that they can make stories too. They learn that they could communicate through written representations, symbols, and or letters, drawings. They experiment with various writing tools and materials. This is one of my favorite things to do for them in the writing art area, is give them every single type of writing material that you can have, except for a permanent marker. Highlighters, crayons, markers, oil pastels, chalk, things like that. Once they learn that they can only do that art on their paper on the table, then you can go ahead and experiment with various writing tools and materials. Yeah, the next one is writing for purpose. So writing names, writing numbers, letters, sharing stories, and sharing an opinion. So these are all things that in class we put in their writing area. Put ABCs in the writing area, put numbers in there. And the best way to do that is in the like flashcard form or like foam letters. So that way they can go ahead and play with it, manipulate it, you know, sometimes they'll even try to write on it. I mean, that's okay. If it's just for the writing area, then that's okay because that's how they're practicing. Um, yeah, so you can also create that at home. Here we have to use scribbles, shapes, pictures, and letters to represent objects, stories, experiences, and ideas. To copy, trace, research, write, transfer writing from one page to another, or independently write letters and words. Practice hand-eye coordination. So these are all the amazing skills that they gain within the writing area. All right, parents. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed learning about the different areas within the classroom. We're working really hard to get it ready for when you come back. Hopefully we'll be back in the classroom real soon. I know the teachers will be going back real soon within the next week or so to get it ready and to get the instructional packets ready. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions, please let me know. If you have questions about how to set up an area within your house, in the meantime, while we're doing homeschool connection, which is also known as distant learning, please let me know, shoot me a message, call me, send me, you have my number, so, or you can contact me through Learning Genie, but please let me know. We're here to help. We love to help, and we can't wait to meet you. Thank you so much for your time. Until next time, bye.